the British Talent Cup here at the Snetterton circuit, and this was yesterday afternoon, race one of the third round of the championship, and it was Rory Skinner who started from pole position with Max Cook alongside. It quickly became apparent that it would be a two-way duel in the way for victory, with Max Cook and Rory Skinner fighting for positions left, right and centre. Tom Strudwick, who was in third position at this point, was closing up on the pair in the lead during the course of the race. However, didn't manage to make any moves that were of any significance. Well, I say that actually, he did manage to find a way through up the inside, which I'm sure we'll be seeing in a few moments. He closed up quite significantly and tried to find his way down the inside of both of them, down in towards the left-hander, but ran a little bit too wide, and the two riders of Skinner and Max Cook finding their way back through. That really put pay to Strudwick's charge in the race. It came down to the final corner of the final lap between Max Cook and Rory Skinner, with Skinner managing to get the victory on the line by just 0.04 of a second ahead of Max Cook, his second win of the 2018 season, and in turn he takes the championship lead here this weekend as well. The Scotsman from Perth was absolutely delighted, and quite rightly so. It really was a spectacular event, some brilliant racing, and showing exactly why the British Talent Cup is displaying the stars of MotoGP and creating that road for future world champions. Here were the riders discussing in parc fermé and debriefing afterwards as well. Thomas Strudwick there, the first time he's relinquished the championship lead so far this season. What will happen though ahead of race 2? Round 3 of the British Talent Cup from Snetterton here, and you can see the runners and riders lined up on the grid. Some grey clouds overhead, but otherwise pretty good conditions here this weekend. A little bit cooler though than it was yesterday, which could prove to be a bit of an interesting factor here this morning ahead of this second race. My name's Tom Brooks, and let's bring you the action here for the second race of the weekend. Then it is of course the third round of the British Talent Cup, and what an exciting time it has been so far in the 2018 season. We've had 2 rounds so far at Donington. The first round, of course, supporting the British Superbike Championship, and then the second round just a couple of weeks ago supporting the World Superbike Championship event there. And now, of course, we're back with the British Superbike Championship here at the Snetterton circuit. This man here, Josh Watley, he lines up on the outside of the second row of the grid in 6th position, and he could be one to watch, you know. The young 12-year-old has put in a few good performances so far this season. Let's wait and see how he will get on, however. What about Cameron Horsman here? Again, some good performances from him so far this year on board that number 23 machine. Yesterday, however, things not necessarily going that well to plan for Cameron Horsman. Was hoping to be fighting inside the top 5, but actually only finished in 8th position at the checkered flag. Could be one to watch, though, here today, as we say. These weather conditions could make things very interesting. Here's Brian Hart. He was hoping to be fighting for the podium, managed to hold on to 4th position, which is where he qualified as well. He currently sits 5th in the championship now on round 3. And he could be, again, a very interesting factor in this race. It all depends on the start, though. That's one of the key factors that we've seen so far in this race. This man here, Thomas Strudwick, had an absolute belter away from the line yesterday. He's now 2nd in the championship, as we said, the first time that he has relinquished the championship lead so far in the 2018 season. So let's see what he is able to do. What about this man here, though, Max Cook? He's taken a win so far this season. 65 points on the board, 3rd in the championship. Lives in Bristol, from Swindon originally, however, and he lines up on the head of, or in the middle rather I should say, of the front row of the grid. This man here, Rory Skinner, pole position for him in qualifying yesterday. 0.6 of a second was the advantage that the Scotsman had over the rest of the field, but it was a lot closer in terms of the race, as you saw with the race 1 highlights that we showed you just a few moments ago. As we said, just 0.40 of a second going to the line between Skinner and Max Cook for the race lead. Cook, of course, trying to find his way up the inside into that final corner, not quite managing to make a move stick, and Max Cook holding his nerve. Rory Skinner finishing on the top step for not the first time this season. As we said, those clouds overhead and the weather conditions here might prove to be an interesting factor here today. Of course, cooler conditions for these runners and riders. Of course, they're all on exactly the same tyre, all on identical motorcycles as well, which does make it, of course, a very level playing field and does showcase the riders' talent, of course. What we often get are a couple of groups of riders fighting in amongst one another. You're going to get 3 or 4 fighting for the race lead, and then a couple further back. It all depends, of course, on the depth of field. A big depth of field in terms of the talent here for the British Talent Cup. You can now see 5 minutes to go until the race starts as the safety car departs its way from the grid. Of course, it's a 14-lap race for these British Talent Cup riders here this weekend. And it's all going to be interesting to see what will happen. Will we have a double winner in 2018? Will it be Rory Skinner? Will it be Max Cook? There is your grid then, lined up. They're all ready to go. We're all ready to go here in the commentary box as well. Time is going to tell as to what will happen here this weekend. It has been very unpredictable so far this season in the British Talent Cup. As we said, of course, just looking at Max Cook, we're looking at the pole sitter now of Rory Skinner. Of course, took that victory yesterday. Has taken a win so far this season as well. Race 1 at Donington Park, let's not forget. That was at the second round of the championship. Last time out when we supported the World Superbike Championship. Thomas Strubwick, meanwhile, who was the championship leader, lining up on the number 8 on the outside of that front row of the grid. He's got the number 25, but of course, 25 points rather, I should say. And he took the victory in the opening round of the season. And at Donington Park, last time out as well, 2 third-place finishes. The only rider to have actually finished every single British Talent Cup race so far this season, and to have actually, and I'm probably putting the commentator's curse on him now as well, but having not crashed so far this year as well. You can see the fans that have flocked in here this weekend. Of course, the British Superbike Championship is very, very popular here in the United Kingdom. And you can understand why as well, because lots of fans coming here, and it's a really great day out for the family. It's great to see these young runners and riders, though, in the British Talent Cup, but you can really see the clouds overhead as it emerges into the white clouds that were before it. It's gotten a lot darker here. It should just blow over. We're not expecting too much in terms of rain here this afternoon, but you never know what might happen. This is Great Britain after all, and it is known for its very unpredictable climate. So the warm-up lap then, about to get underway very, very shortly indeed. As we said, 14 laps for these riders as they make their way from the grid. The flags flying here at the Snetterton circuit. The fans ready for some action. We're ready for some action here in the commentary box, and the riders ready for action as well. Thomas Strubwick just shaking hands with his mentor for this weekend, wishing him good luck. Of course, all these riders riding identical liveries, which makes it a little bit difficult for us to pick them out up here in the commentary box, but there are a few little distinctive differences, of course, in terms of their numbers, a couple of few flashes on the helmets and the leathers, and so on and so forth. The riders, of course, will depart from the grid. A couple of absences this weekend as well. We'll mention that as soon as the warm-up lap gets underway, which it does so now. 21 riders taking to the grid here this afternoon, and actually for the first time ever in the British Talent Cup in 2018, we actually had every single rider finishing the race yesterday as well, which was certainly no mean feat. However, a couple of absences, as we said. 2 riders not making the grid this weekend. Storm Stacey, a training accident for him on board one of his mountain bikes, has unfortunately broken his scaphoid and will not be racing this weekend. And hopefully he's able to get himself better and ready to go out for the next time that the British Talent Cup is in action, of course, at the MotoGP event at the Silverstone circuit. Come back to that in just a few moments, mention the other absence, and just look at the championship standings. You can see Rory Skinner, 76 points his championship at the moment, 3 points ahead of Thomas Strubwick, 11 points ahead of Max Cook, and 21 points ahead of Josh Watley. So 3 riders, really 4 riders, all within a chance potentially of taking this championship lead here this afternoon. Let's wait and see what will happen with regards to this race. However, it's going to be very unpredictable and certainly very exciting. The other absence, though, this weekend, unfortunately, Fenton Seabright, a training incident likewise for him, means he is not here this afternoon. He's actually broken a couple of bones in his forearm, so cannot ride, of course. So, again, we're hoping that he has a speedy recovery, likewise with Storm Stacey, and that we'll be seeing them out in the British Talent Cup next time at the MotoGP event on the final weekend of August. A super slow-mo of the British Talent Cup riders going through the field. And if it's as close as it's going to be in qualifying and indeed in race 1 yesterday, we are in for an absolute cracker here this afternoon. It is going to be very unpredictable. It's going to be very exciting. We were really expecting yesterday Rory Skinner to just romp away with things given his advantage in the championship. However, probably not going to be the case here today given what we saw in race 1 yesterday. Let's wait and see what will happen, though. It's going to be very, very unpredictable. There is Rory Skinner just going through the shot on board the number 11. We just saw Cameron Horsburgh, who was pretty close behind. So let's wait and see. The runners and riders, of course, will be making their way through grid. That's through Coram there, the penultimate corner, and into the final turn. This is the centre straight, start-finish straight. It's going Good overtaking opportunity, a good point for slipstream as well, which of course is very important on board these motorcycles, being that they are absolutely identical in every single way, shape or form. All the riders on identical tyres. The only things that are different really are the setup and of course the riders behind the handlebars as well. So it really does make a lot of difference in terms of having a slipstream and making able to be sure that your bike is set up to get a good pass down the straight. So everybody lining up on the grid then here at Snetterton. It's round 3 of the British Talent Cup, the second race of the weekend. Rory Skinner, pole position, just to look over his shoulder. Just make sure that everybody is all in place, of course. This is crucial for these riders as the tyre temperatures cool. So wait for the revs to rise. 14 laps of British Talent Cup here at the Snetterton circuit then. The red lights come on, they go out, and we get ready to go racing. A good start from the front row of the grid it was for Max Cook on board the number 5. Did he manage to get the jump on Rory Skinner? Yes, indeed, he does. What about Thomas Strubwick, though, on the inside? He's getting himself up to second place, so Skinner from pole position, potentially down to third place, but it's very close and very aggressive between the top 3 as they all manage to filter through the first corner and come down towards the Wilson Bend into the hairpin. Lots of moves being made there. That looks like Josh Watley's the man on the charge. He's up into third position on the number 6. Brilliant stuff from Josh Watley. That's an absolute cracker from the young 12-year-old, but it is Max Cook then that leads the way in the opening stages, and he is already trying to build that gap out in front. You can see just a couple of bike lengths that he's pulling out over the likes of the number 8 of Thomas Strubwick and of Josh Watley behind. You can see there Rory Skinner trying to attack as well, trying to find his way up the inside of Watley. Does he manage to get the move done? He's down the inside on the number 11 and he's up into third position. So it's now the recovery on this opening lap that is going to be absolutely crucial for Rory Skinner. A poor start for the Scotsman means he's got a lot of work to do in these opening couple of laps, and you can see how much the gap has really increased at the front of this race. So Max Cook with the advantage at the moment ahead of Tom Strubwick, now ahead of the number 11 of Rory Skinner, further back as well. Lots of progress being made, lots of moves being made. Very, very dicey. Fourth position very close behind. The number 4 of Scott Ogden's made some good ground as well. He was hoping to fight for the podium positions, and Ogden will need to be making a good charge in these opening few laps. He's already up though inside the top 5 and trying to challenge against Watley, so that will certainly be helping his challenge at the moment. You can see there the number 6 of Josh Watley just taking a wider line through the left-hander. And as they come through into the final sector, through Coram and then into Murray's, the final corner, this is where it gets very, very close. And we do see a few aggressive moves being made, including Rory Skinner, who dices his way up the inside of Thomas Strubwick. So Skinner not taking any prisoners in this opening lap. He's made some ground. He's up. Oh, and Max Cook goes down. The race leader, Max Cook, on the final corner. Disaster for the young 13-year-old. What a drama here this afternoon. And the race leader goes down at the final corner on the opening lap. That is a very, very big shame, unfortunately, for Cook. So the race leader then is down, and now it's a three-way scrap out in front, and it's Rory Skinner who dices his way up the inside of Thomas Strubwick. This is going to get very, very hairy indeed. You can see there as well Josh Watley on board the number 6, trying to challenge, trying to find his way through. It's getting aggressive in the opening stages. Watley now up in the third place. Moves being made further back as well. You can see there that Brian Hart was trying to find his way through on Scott Ogden. That was for the 4th position. But big drama here in the form of Max Cook, the race leader, crashing out. Apologise because he's actually 15 years old, not 13 years old rather. And he went down. You can see he just lost the rear end there going in towards the final corner of Murray's. It was a very, very strange crash, that one, but just pushing a bit too hard on the opening lap. And that's a big shame for the 15-year-old. And unfortunately, it isn't going to be another podium position. And of course, this is going to be crucial for Max Cook's championship charge as well, let's not forget. So, not the first race he's crashed out of the 2018 season either. Crashed out, of course, of the first race at Donington Park. But regardless, if he's able to get on and remount, then with a bit of luck, he will be able to hopefully get himself into the lower end of the points. 21 riders on the grid, of course. He'll have a lot of ground to be made up if he is able to get back on. Meanwhile, out in front in the lead of the race, it is still Rory Skinner, who's now trying to stretch that gap on board the number 11. Thomas Strubwick in second position, closely followed by Josh Watley. Look at Watley, you can see the bike really moving underneath him. Of course, he's one of the smaller riders on the grid. Scott Ogden as well, making some good ground. 4th position for Ogden, and he could be in potentially for a podium battle here this afternoon. Lap 214, there's another rider that's gone down. That is Charlie Atkins, unfortunately. So shame for Atkins. Can't quite see where that is on the circuit at the moment, but he's gone down. The main thing is he's up and okay, but that is a very, very big shame for the 15-year-old from Lincolnshire. So he'll be very disgruntled with that one. And you can see the frustration on his body language. Let's see if we can piece together what happened. He goes through into the right-hander here, does Charlie Atkins. And what happens, we'll see. We're just going to catch the back end of the incident, I think. Yeah, we can just see that was actually in the left-hander which followed. And it looks like he might have lost the rear going through there, because it's a fast place to crash at that point in the lap here at Snetterton. A big, big shame for Charlie Atkins. So no points on the board for him then this afternoon. Skinner, though, still leads the way ahead of Strubwick. You can see there Skinner trying to increase that gap out in front. This is going to be the crucial question, though. Are Strubwick and Whatley going to have an answer for Rory Skinner at the front of the shot? Let's see what will happen. Meanwhile, further back as well, you can see the gaps really increasing. And this is what we saw yesterday as well, with, of course, lots of riders fighting for position, but lots of battles and lots of different groups going on, including this one here. That's the number 17, Franco Bourne, with Scott Swan very close behind. Swan dices his way down the inside into the left-hander. Does he find the way through? Does he manage to hold the line? Yes, he does. A nice simple block pass there for Scott Swan. He's up into 9th position, so good move there from the number 20. 15 years old from Antrim in Northern Ireland. He'll be pretty pleased with that one. Of course, competed in the KTM RC Cup in 2016, so he has got a wealth of experience here in Britain as well. Some more moves being made, some more positions changing here as well. Lots and lots of close racing action, and you can see the number 12 and the number 14. That, of course, is Ross Turner and Sam Laffins going for position. A little bit further down the order, though. That's just outside of the point-paying positions. And that's actually for 17th place so far in this race. So as we said, a little bit further down the order, but regardless, some very exciting racing going on through the field. Now, this is going to be interesting as well. You can see the man here in 2nd place, Thomas Strubwick. Is he going to be able to do anything to try and close that gap down to Rory Skinner? We saw yesterday in the race, his late race pace, Tom Strubwick, was very, very impressive. But Rory Skinner was setting fastest lap after fastest lap, something that he was doing in qualifying yesterday as well. He had a 6/10 of a second advantage, actually, yesterday. And in qualifying, and he was all out on his own during that session as well. So once he's got clear track in front of him, it's going to be interesting to see whether that gap will be changing. Speaking of changing as well, here is Jack Nixon, who's coming under some pressure as well. That's from Rhys Irwin and Franco Bourne, who aren't too far behind. Actually, Cameron Horseman also in there as well. So Nixon now, in fact, up to 6th place. Cameron Horseman behind, followed by Rhys Irwin. Meanwhile, another fastest lap from Rory Skinner, a 2:02.9. He increased an advantage, is now up to 1.2 seconds over 2nd place. This could be sheer domination for Rory Skinner. He could be the first rider to do the double in the British Talent Cup so far in this 2018 season. What will he be able to do? Time is going to tell, that is for sure. So, back to the action, further back in the order. This is for 6th place rather, we should say. Cameron Horseman now has managed to get himself ahead of Jack Nixon, so that's a nice little bit of riding there for Cameron Horseman. Of course, a very young hopeful in this British Talent Cup Championship, as are a lot of the, all of the other riders, of course, in the grid. And let's not forget, as one of the riders goes wide, is that Whatley running wide? It is indeed. He was trying to find his way through against Thomas Strubwick, so Whatley just losing out a little bit of time there. Hopefully there'll be no more mistakes from Whatley like that, and he'll be able to keep himself latched onto the back of Thomas Strubwick, because he's going to have to try and hold the charge as well of Josh Whatley as is Scott Ogden as well. Those two riders who've got quite a lot of history together as well. A couple of years ago I was commentating on them racing in a British Championship back on mini bikes in the day, and those two riders, Josh Whatley, Scott Ogden, fighting for the title way back then. A couple of years later, fast forward, and they're fighting in the British Talent Cup on the first ladder in the road to MotoGP. And of course, if you fancy getting yourself involved in the British Talent Cup, well, you can, because applications close here now today. And this could be your last opportunity to get yourself involved in the British Talent Cup for 2019. Head onto the website, because it won't be long. They close this afternoon, as we said. BritishTalentCup.com, and you could be fighting on the grid for position, or perhaps it could be your son or daughter or your niece or your nephew. They fancy getting themselves out in the grid and out racing on their first road to MotoGP ladder. Meanwhile, back to the action out in front. This is how close the racing is in the British Talent Cup, as Josh Whatley does manage to get the better of Thomas Strubwick down towards the first corner. Strubwick, though, takes a tighter line. They're going to go side by side down into Wilson Bend. Very, very close indeed, but Whatley later on the brakes, his lighter stature, his smaller stature, certainly going to be helping him on board that bike as well, especially as he goes onto the straight. Quick look over the shoulder there for Josh Whatley, just watching from behind. Of course, Whatley now will have a bit more of an advantage, because he'll have a bit of clear track in front of him, but not if Strubwick is able to mount the charge, as we can see them fighting for position, getting very close indeed between Whatley and Strubwick. Here comes the Strubwick, then down the inside, shifts down the gearbox, slides his way through. A nice simple block pass. That, of course, is where Strubwick tried to find his way through. A couple of positions he was trying to make on the final stages of the race to get himself into the lead. Bit off a little bit more than he could chew at that point, but doing it to absolute perfection here on lap 5 out of 14 at Snetterton. So nice bit of riding there for Thomas Strubwick. Rory Skinner, though, still in the lead and increasing that advantage lap after lap. He set another fastest lap last time around, a 2:02.705. 2.1 seconds is the difference between Rory Skinner and Thomas Strubwick now. So Skinner has got this race pretty much in the bag in the opening stages of this one. Some good moves going on further back as well, you can see as they come cascading through the right-handers. It really is a very exciting part of the lap, that one, the middle part of it. Down this straight as well, 777 metres, the longest straight here at the Snetterton circuit. And you can really see how close these runners and riders are able to battle for position. Of course, the equal motorcycle certainly does help the matter. And it really does make it very, very unpredictable indeed. The battle for 10th position still reigns on. You can see a bit of a wobble there for the number 10. That, of course, is Jack Hart. And Jack Hart in the lead of this group at the moment. That is for 11th position so far. Closely following him is Franco Bourne. He's got Jonathan Campbell in there, Lewis Patterson as well as they come over the timing line. So a four-way battle for 11th position in this race could get pretty hairy. The number 24 of Jonathan Campbell tries to find his way through against Lewis Patterson. Does he find his way up the inside? It was very, very close. And we've got a rider down as well. That is Rory Skinner, the race leader. Skinner's gone down. I don't believe it, from the race leader. Commanding advantage he had in this race. And Rory Skinner crashes out. Is he going to be able to remount on the number 11? It's not going to be the double here this afternoon at Snetterton. He gets back on the bike, but that is a big, big shame for Rory Skinner. What an absolutely unbelievable turn of events. Let's see if we can piece together what happened. He comes over the hill. Oh, and that was strange, wasn't it? Did he run wide there? We saw some dust being kicked up. We couldn't quite see exactly what happened on the circuit, but looked like he just lost the rear going through there, Rory Skinner. And that is a big, big shame for the number 11. He'll be disappointed with that one. That, of course, does mean now the de facto leader is this man here of Thomas Strubwick. And what will the number 8 be able to do? Will it be win number 3 of the 2018 season? Well, if the man behind him, Josh Watley, keeps running wide like that, it's going to hand him a bit more of an advantage. But now Thomas Strubwick leads the way in the most extreme and unbelievable of circumstances. Rory Skinner did manage to remount, and he is still circulating on the track at the moment, but we don't quite know whereabouts he is because the timing screens we have up here in the commentary box don't update until they come over the timing line. We don't get it sector by sector. So if Skinner is able to continue on and have the pace that he did, and he hasn't got any damage to the bike, then he'll be in good form and potentially be able to get himself some lower points positions, which will be, well, very crucial for his championship charge. But the young Scotsman from Perth will be absolutely livid following that mistake. Unfortunately, the battle for 5th position still reigns on as we come over the timing line down the centre straight, then head towards the first corner of Riches. Still Cameron Horseman leading the way against Jack Nixon at the moment. That slipstream not proving to be too effective at the moment. Nixon just a little bit too far back to make an effective move at the halfway stage in this race. Through the right-hander they go. And down in towards Wilson Bend. It's a very, very interesting part of the lap. This one, of course, it slows down quite a lot, but you can actually take a lot more speed into that corner than it looks. But it does tighten up on the exit. You can see a few riders trying to make a few moves into a few corners as well, trying to find their way through into Wilson Bend. And look at this gaggle of riders battling for position. This is how close the British Sun Cup is. Still at the head of the battle in 9th position is Jack Hart. So Jack Hart's having a really, really good race. Is the young Scotsman on board the number 10 machine rather, the 13-year-old from Paisley. He's got some company as well from behind. You can see as well Lewis Patterson, Franco Bourne in there as well. Bourne tries to find his way down the inside. Sorry, Patterson down the inside rather of Bourne. Does he manage to make the move stick? Yes, indeed he did. So Patterson is up into the top 10. And now the number 24 of Jonathan Campbell sits just behind. So this is getting very, very dicey indeed. Down we go. Here comes Patterson once again. This is very aggressive stuff from Lewis Patterson at the mid-stages of this race. So the Scotsman certainly not taking any prisoners. He wants to get himself out in the front of this group and try to battle for that top 10 and just break away a bit more of an advantage, really, which we know is so difficult to do. But Jack Hart, as they come down the back straight, the Bentley straight, in towards the left-hander of Brundle, then into Nelson. This is where we see quite a few moves being made. You can often take a wider line into Brundle, and then going into Nelson, it means that you can switch back and get that move done and dusted. You can see Rory Skinner on the number 11. He is battling in the third position as well. Rory Skinner, he's going for points-paying positions. He's just behind the number 17, that's Franco Bourne, in the battle for 9th place. So Skinner could be on for a bit of a good recovery in this one, but Rory Skinner, you can see him there on the number 11. Look at how much more speed advantage he's got. He's got so much confidence behind the handlebars of that Honda NSF 250 RC machine, and his ascension through the field in the latter half of this race is going to be absolutely spectacular. Over the timing line we go. He's just behind the number 24 of Jonathan Campbell, who in turn is just behind Lewis Patterson, with Jack Hart still leading the way. And down the straight we go, in towards the first corner of Riches. What is Skinner going to be able to do? He's going to try and find his way through against the number 24 of Jonathan Campbell. Did he manage to get the move done and dusted? Looks like he did there for Rory Skinner. So Skinner, again, continuing his ascension through the field. Look at this little gaggle though. Look at the moves being made. Very, very close indeed. Was that Skinner trying to find his way through? I think indeed it was. So he's up into the top 10 already. So Rory Skinner, as you can see on the number 11, fighting his way through with the number 10 of Jack Hart, not wanting to take things lying down through the left-hander. Very, very close racing indeed between these runners and riders. This is just absolutely incredible stuff here in the British Talent Cup. Rory Skinner, the fastest lap as well, and he deposes of the number 21 of Lewis Patterson. So he's up into the top 10. He's up into 9th place now, is Rory Skinner, and setting fastest lap after fastest lap. He's inside the top 10. That'll be a great recovery ride for him. The next man, though, up the road is quite a way away. And, of course, is in the form of Scott Swan, who's 8 seconds in front. So Rory Skinner, despite his pace advantage, I don't know if he's going to be able to bridge that gap. Let's wait and see what will happen, though. This is Rory Skinner. He's a man on a mission now after the incident that he had, of course, after crashing out of that race lead. But up into 9th place for the Scotsman. Meanwhile, it's all getting pretty hairy further back as well. That's Scott Ogden, the number 4. Ogden still in for this podium battle, but Brian Hart has managed to get ahead of him on board the number 9. So Brian Hart is now up into 3rd place. That's really good stuff for the number 9. Didn't quite see, sorry, the number 8 rather, didn't quite see the move being made. Let's see if we can piece it all happen. Oh, it's a big moment there for Scott Ogden as well. He went well wide, and that allowed the number 9 of Brian Hart to say thank you very much, and he found his way through with relative ease. So Brian Hart now over to 3rd place, but Ogden, we know he's got the pace. We know he has got a good amount of speed behind the handlebars of that motorbike. Is he going to find his way through down the inside into Riches? Not quite at the moment. Brian Hart brakes later, carries a bit more corner speed through the first turn, and down in towards Wilson maybe is where we'll see an advantage for Scott Ogden. Down in towards the right-hander we go. Very, very close racing indeed between them. But still at the moment, Brian Hart holds on to that 3rd position. They come left in towards the left-hander of Palmer's, which follows, then into Agostini, of course, Hamilton, which follows that one. See the battle for 3rd position as well, Brian Hart and Scott Ogden. So let's wait and see what will happen. Will Ogden be able to respond to Brian Hart's charges? Look at this battle further back, though, as well. Number 23, that's Cameron Horseman. He's still battling with Jack Nixon inside the top 5. So those 2 riders still going very, very close indeed on the circuit in terms of their pace as well. Well, Cameron Horseman last time around was a 2:04.5. Jack Nixon, who was behind, was a 2:04.3. So he had the advantage in terms of the lap time, which of course would have probably been aided by the slipstream as well. But it's going to be the proof in the pudding to see whether he will be able to make an advantage of that in the latter part of this race. Meanwhile, this man here, Thomas Strubwick, the comfortable commanding advantage out in front, a 2.3 second gap. Look at the battle though for 2nd place. Here comes Brian Hart. He is really on a charge and trying to find his way through into the left-hander after the Bentley Straight. Didn't quite manage to make the move stick through there. But you can see the pace advantage that Brian Hart had last time around, rather. A 2:03.699. That was nearly 5/10 quicker, nearly half a second faster than Josh Watley in 2nd position. But Hart, surely it's only going to be a matter of time before the number 9 finds his way through. He's from Malaga in Spain. He's a British rider. He's got a British father and a Brazilian mother. He actually speaks 3 different languages, as Brian Hart speaks, of course, Portuguese, speaks English and speaks Spanish. So he's got all the languages down to a T. He's got the racecraft down to a T as well, as Josh Watley just takes a big look over his shoulder. And they come down in towards Riches. This is where the slipstream comes into play. Down into that first corner, though. Still very level peggings between the 2. Down in towards the Wilson Bend we go. Very late on the brakes for Josh Watley there. Has he run it just a little bit too hot? Well, he misses the apex there and runs it a bit wide on the exit. That'll just allow Brian Hart a bit of an incentive to try and close up, and a bit more of an advantage as well. You can see the two separated by just a couple of tenths of a second at this stage. And let's not forget about the number 4 of Scott Ogden as well, who's not too far away from this battle should anything go awry between the two. So on the brakes, down in towards the left-hander, which follows. Very, very close racing between the two through Oggies, then flicking it right in towards Williams. They'll go in a couple of moments' time. So that's through Agostini rather, then they'll flick it left, then they'll be flicking it right in towards Oggies. As we come now into second part of the lap, this battle for second place still raining on as well. Josh Whatley doing a really, really good job of soaking up that pressure of Brian Hart. But will Hart be able to find something? Will he be able to make a move? Onto this back straight is where it's going to count. Another look over the shoulder for Josh Whatley. He knows that Brian Hart is there. Hart goes down towards the inside. Whatley trying to squeeze his line. Hart, though, is not taking it lying down in towards Brundle. And still a later braking manoeuvre from Josh Whatley, taking that wider line into the right-hander, which follows of Nelson. And still managing to hold on to track position. So some good defensive riding here from Josh Whatley. He's doing a really, really good job of holding on to that podium. Second place for Whatley. Third for Brian Hart. Fourth, Ogden, just in the background there. There's quite a gap back to 5th position. Meanwhile, the gap coming down as well. We were talking about Rory Skinner's ascension through the field. And he's still in 9th position, but has managed to close that gap down to Rhys Irwin, who's now in 8th position by 2 seconds over the last couple of laps. You can see a super slow-mo here of the race leader, Thomas Strubwick. A commanding advantage he's got, 3.5 seconds out in front. Of course, finished 3rd in the race yesterday, did Thomas Strubwick. What will he be able to do here this weekend? Will it be a race victory? Look at this battle, though, as well, for position. So down the back straight we go in towards, or to the start-finish straight rather, we go in towards the right-hander. That's the number 18 trying to find his way through. That's Jamie Davis battling for 11th place. Davis having a good run after what's been a tough start to his 2018 British Talent Cup campaign. Fighting nearly inside the top 10 will be very beneficial for not only his racecraft but also his confidence as well. He's got Ross Turner in there, Jack Hart, Jonathan Campbell, Charlie Farrer not too far adrift as well by the looks of things, and quite a big group of riders all battling for position. That group actually stretches from 11th place all the way down into 17th position. So you can see here, any one of these riders could end up getting themselves into the points, but of course it does stretch outside of the points as well, quite crucially. One of the riders just running a little bit wide there. That was the number 12 of Ross Turner. So Turner making a slight mistake as they go through Agostini's. That will not be helping his charge. They come through the left-hander of Hamilton. Meanwhile, the race leader, Thomas Strubwick, still in front. 3.5 seconds his gap over the rest of the field. But it is coming down, though, between Whatley and Brian Hart. Hart still unable to find a way through against the number 6 of Josh Whatley at the moment. But this is a nice, clean and very, very aggressive battle for position. The cloud's still looming overhead here at Snetterton as well. It's really, really gone quite overcast at some parts of the lap, over the start-finish straight in particular. The wind picking up also in terms of that, but over towards the first corner, it doesn't look too bad at all. So I don't think the weather's going to be too much of a factor for the rest of the weekend, certainly not in this race. But regardless, something to keep an eye on just in case the heavens do indeed open. Cameron Horseman and Jack Nixon, you just see going through his shot there, still battling inside the top 5. Meanwhile, Brian Hart and Ogden, that gap coming down by 1/10 of a second. Here comes Brian Hart. Is he going to launch a move into riches against Josh Whatley? He tries to slide his way down the inside, but again has to just hold off for a few moments. Whatley with some good corner speed through there and some good defensive riding as well, maybe down into Wilson. But again, Brian Hart just not thinking about it too much at the moment. Of course, these riders, the top 2 in this battle with Whatley and Hart battling for 2nd and 3rd in the race respectively, are going to have to be a little bit careful here as well, let's not forget, because if they do fight and squabble amongst one another, you can see how much of an advantage Scott Ogden has been able to gain on the battling duo in this race. So it's certainly not going to be helping the charge then of Whatley and Brian Hart to try and increase that advantage over Ogden. You can see it's come down quite significantly. And, well, we'll see whether Ogden is able to fight for the podium positions in the latter part of this race and potentially get himself onto the rostrum in the British Talent Cup. Ogden currently 10th in the championship. His best result so far has been a top 5 finish, but he's not been onto the rostrum so far. Josh Whatley has been on the rostrum. Brian Hart on the number 9 machine. What is he going to be able to do? 6th in the championship going into this weekend, but again, no rostrum for him, so it could be a couple of first-time podiums here this afternoon with just under 2 laps remaining. Again, another look over the shoulder there for Josh Watley. Brian Hart ducking towards the inside, down the straight, into the left-hander. Again, signalling his intentions, but not quite managing to make a move through there. Bit of a moment there for Brian Hart as well. That'll upset his charge, and will upset the attack that he was making on Josh Watley, and allow Watley just a little bit of breathing space, which could be all he needs in the latter part of this race. Still in 4th place, Scott Ogden just doesn't seem to have the pace at the moment to try and challenge. Meanwhile, Rory Skinner bringing that gap down. He's managed to make over 3 seconds on the last few laps as Rory Skinner in 9th position so far, trying to challenge for 8th against Scott Swan. He's going to run out of time, I'm sure, but he set fastest lap last time around, a 2:02.649. Very, very impressive stuff for Rory Skinner. The best lap set yesterday in the race was a 2:03.132, so with the bit between his teeth, that will certainly be helping Rory Skinner's charge in getting the fastest lap, and of course closing that gap down. You can see how much he has closed that gap down as well. Even on this lap last time around, he's all over the back of Scott Swan and Rhys Irving like a rash. This battle further down as well, the number 24, you can see of Jonathan Campbell, who was on the outside there, getting overtaken by 2 riders in the form of Franco Bourne and Jamie Davis, who are making some good ground through Riches. So this is a good little battle for position, again just outside of the top 10 for 11th place, and still the riders lining very, very close indeed, and a little bit of contact there as they try to find their way through. Was that Campbell on, it looks like it could have been on the number 17 of Franco Bourne, so very close indeed, but Campbell aggressively finding his way up the inside through Wilson's into 12th place. Let's have a look at a bit of a replay there. You can see Campbell, he's going to go on the inside, very late on the brakes he is, and just slides up the way of the inside of Franco Bourne. Bourne has no option but to sit up, and that of course compromises his run out of that corner. See the number 17 there, just there, as well as the number 10 on the inside was trying to take advantage of Jack Hart. Hart not able to at the moment. Meanwhile, this battle for 2nd place still reigning on between the number 6 of Thomas Strubwick and the number 9 of Brian Hart. Hart is very, very close, but he's running out of time. He's only got another lap left after this one. Then it'll be the countdown to that checkered flag. So what will Brian Hart be able to do? Flicking it right, then into the left-hander. The final corner here at Snetterton of Murray's. This, of course, is where we saw the race lead changing on the final lap last time out in race 1 yesterday. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case today. Thomas Strubwick seems to have this one pretty much sewn up, but the battle for the podium still reigning on between Watley Hart and Scott Ogden, who's still fighting for position as well. Rory Skinner still making some good ground on board that number 11 bike, and he has managed to get the better of Jack Nixon and Rhys Irwin over the last couple of laps, so a real good recovery ride for Rory Skinner. Instead of being in 9th place, he's now up into 7th position. That's probably the best he's going to be hoping for on this final lap, considering he was down and relinquished his race lead in the early stages. It's an absolutely brilliant bit of recovery for him. Josh Watley, another look over his shoulder as he flicks it left. 2nd position is what he wants, but he's got Brian Hart, who's looking very, very menacing and very aggressive indeed as they come down in towards the left-hander. Hard on the brakes they go. Still Brian Hart looking menacing, looking aggressive, but not quite able to find a way through at Agostini's. Tucking under the bubble once again. They're going to flick it left for Hamilton's in a couple of moments' time. Still that gap stayed pretty much the constant, really, given the slipstream over the last couple of laps or so. You can see, though, Brian Hart was marginally faster than Josh Watley by just 0.5 of a second. Is that going to be crucial on this final lap? That's the question we're asking. The proof will be in the pudding in just under a couple of kilometres' time. Onto the back straight, though. This is where it counts. This is where Brian Hart needs to think about pouncing and making a move. But, of course, Josh Watley, he's a younger rider. He's a bit smaller, and that is going to be helping his charge on this straight as well in terms of battling for the podium. Hart tries to go the long way around the outside. Bit of a moment for Watley into that corner. He runs it very, very wide into Nelson's. Is that going to compromise his run out of the next corner? Yes, indeed it is. Brian Hart's going to try and find a way through. He goes down the inside for 2nd place. Brilliant move from Brian Hart up into 2nd in the final stages of this race here at Snetterton, and Scott Ogden's not going to take things lying down either. Is Ogden going to challenge for the podium at the final corner? We saw this yesterday for the race, but he's not close enough at the moment. Brian Hart holds on to 2nd place then as we come over the timing line. It is going to be another win for Thomas Strubwick in 2018. A brilliant result for the number 8. It's the race victory, and second place goes down to the line, but it does go then the way of Josh Whatley by just 65 hundredths of a second. So Whatley must have got an absolute stonker of an exit out of that final corner. Brian Hart settles for third best in the end. Scott Ogden in fourth, and look at this battle further down as well. Franco Bourne has managed to get the better of his fellow riders, and it's going to be a battle to the line once again between him and Jamie Davis. To the line it goes. Who's going to get it between Bourne and Davis? It was very close indeed, separated by just 32 hundredths of a second, and it did go to Franco Bourne for 11th position. Very, very close indeed. What an absolutely incredible race here, though, in the British Talent Cup. Thomas Strubwick on top once again, his second win of the 2018 season. And surely he's going to be thinking about the championship. Surely that'll be on his mind now. It's only 8 rounds long, this British Talent Cup. And another win for him will be all that he wanted. An absolutely brilliant performance. Just kept his cool, kept his nerve. And when others around him made those crucial mistakes, it was exactly what Strubwick needed to try and get himself fighting at the front. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Josh Whatley in second position. Brian Hart in third place. Just incredible here in the British Talent Cup. Really living up to expectation. Such close racing throughout the field as well. An incredible battle for position for the most part. Josh Whatley, he's very, very pleased with that second position in that race, and you can completely understand why as well. The young 12-year-old, the youngest rider in the field, he will be absolutely delighted with that. He sat fourth in the championship going into this weekend. That's his second podium of the 2018 season as well. He's taken 2 second places in 2018, one at the first round at Donington in race 1, and now in the second race at Snetterton in round 3. Surely he's only going to be a matter of time before he's on the top step, Josh Whatley. What about this man here, though, Brian Hart? A challenging start to his season. He had at Donington. And a challenging couple of races last time out at Donington as well. And he's really come good this weekend, has Brian Hart. It's a track he knows well, of course, with his experience in the KTM RC Cup in 2017 when he raced in Germany, of course, raced in Britain as well. So he does have recent experience of this track, and that will certainly be helping him. This isn't the only championship that Brian Hart is racing in 2018, however, so he doesn't have as much track time compared to some other riders around him, which does put him at a little bit of a disadvantage in that respect. However, he's done a very, very good job to get a podium here this afternoon at the Snetterton circuit. Brilliant stuff for him, his first podium in the British Talent Cup, and he will be absolutely delighted with that. Michael Laverty will be down with British Television talking to him, and we'll be watching that later on. You can see Thomas Strubwick, though, as he came over the timing line. It really was absolutely incredible for Thomas Strubwick. As we said, just kept his calm, kept his nerve, and when others around him made mistakes, he didn't falter at all. He was there when he needed to be, and sometimes that is what counts, and it certainly was the case here for race number 2. So we are at the halfway point in the 2018 season. Of course, 6 rounds in 2018 for the British Talent Cup. After round 3 here at Snetterton, of course, the championship rolls on next time to Silverstone in August. And you can see there the third place man. That, of course, is Brian Hart on board the number 9. Makes his way back into Parc Ferme, celebrating with his crew, celebrating with the riders as well. Of course, all of these riders running stickers on their helmets as well for the number 77, Andreas Perez, the CEV Moto3 rider who sadly lost his life in a terrible accident last weekend at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. But all of these runners and riders having stickers on their helmets to pay tribute to the young 14-year-old. But a great race, meanwhile, here at race 2 at Snetterton this afternoon. Fantastic performance from all involved. Let's take a look at the final results then here for round 3. Thomas Strubwick on top then, Josh Whatley and Brian Hart on the podium joining him. Scott Ogden, Jack Nixon, Cameron Horseman very, very close behind. between Nixon and Horseman. Rory Skinner, Rhys Irwin, Scott Swan. Rory Skinner doing a great job of being able to recover that gap. Lewis Patterson completes the top 10. Franco Bourne got the better of Jamie Davis on the line, ahead of Jack Hart, Charlie Farrow and Jonathan Campbell being the last of the classified point scorers. Ross Turner, Sam Lappins just missing out on points positions, likewise Aidan Davey as well. Harvey Claridge the last of the classified runners. Charlie Atkins and Max Cook unfortunately failing to finishes. Of course, that crash for the opening lap for the race leader Max Cook and Charlie Atkins. Unfortunately, with that crash, as we saw in the early stages going through, that was going through Agostini earlier on. So the championship then, after the third round of the season, sees Thomas Strudwick with now a 13-point advantage over Rory Skinner. That will be Christmas come early for Strudwick, and Skinner will be left wondering what could have been. Josh Watley 23 points adrift, but it certainly is very, very close further down as well. You can see between Cameron Horseman and the riders down to 9th position as well. Storm Stacey, of course, having missed this weekend, drops down to 10th place in the championship. Close behind him as well, you can see Lewis Patterson and Scott Swan. Fenton Seabright likewise missing this weekend as well. So not the weekend that neither Stacey or Seabright would have wanted. Of course, 2 non-scores and 2 non-starts as well. What a brilliant race. Just see if we can listen in on the chatter down in Parc Ferme.
Well, we are here.
Jordan Weaving there, just congratulating the riders.
You are very welcome to join us down here in the middle of the paddock here.
The riders making their way up onto the podium. And another top step, his second visit to the top step of the podium for the 2018 season for Thomas Strudwick. An absolutely brilliant performance from him. 16 years old he is. And he now makes his way onto the rostrum. Well, Brian Hart does first of all. His first podium of 2018, Brian Hart. Josh Watley in second place. As I said, you can really see the size of the difference between the two riders. Josh Watley, of course, just 12 years of age. So, of course, his small stature certainly helps him, especially on those straights as we saw. Thomas Strudwick on the top step once again. Brian Hart, third position for him. Second place for Josh Watley. And the winner's trophy for Thomas Strudwick. What a performance here for race 2 at Snetterton. And now it's time for the national anthem of the UK.
Just as he heard in round 1 at a
brilliant performance from the top 3. Brilliant performance from everybody up and down the grid, to be honest with you. That was absolutely incredible. As we said, the British Talent Cup will next be out at Silverstone, the 24th of August, supporting MotoGP. Don't miss it. It is going to be a bit of a cracker. These riders have a bit of a layoff from the British Talent Cup and go and race in various other series. As we said, British Talent Cup applications closing very, very soon. Get yourself onto BritishTalentCup.com if you want to be a part of this championship in 2019. It really is the place to be if you want to be on the ladder, on the road to MotoGP. Well, we'll leave you with some highlights then from race 2 here at Snetterton. What an absolute cracker. Very, very unpredictable. Thomas Strudwick taking the advantage back in the championship after losing it during race 1 yesterday. It certainly was a thriller. It's going to be exciting to see what happens over the remaining 3 rounds of 2018. Let's wait and see, though, how things will pan out. Thomas Strudwick on top in race 2 here this afternoon at Snetterton. I've been Tom Brooks. Thank you very much for joining us on the British Talent Cup, and we'll see you next time in August, supporting MotoGP here for the British Talent Cup.